Hey everyone, welcome back to the No Reservations Podcast. Today is a special edition where we have a fantastic guest today, Andrew Roy, and we are going to be talking about wine in the most simplest form. And I'm super excited for this conversation. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Andrew. I currently am running a steakhouse in Omaha, Nebraska, Mahogany Prime Steakhouse. I have done pretty much everything in hospitality except for actually owning my own spot. So been in hospitality for 20 years. Started off in a very inglorious spot in the middle of nowhere, Texas, a place called Smokin' Joe's Bar and Grill. I was the cook, server, and dishwasher all at the same time to give you an idea of how small it was. Went to college and fell in love with bartending and wine. And so I spent the next couple of years progressing through the Quartermaster Somm certifications and learning a lot about a lot of different grapes and bottles, and ended up running this steakhouse where we have over $200,000 in inventory and wine alone. So a huge, huge offering. And I've done everything in between, from Italian spots to fast casual Spanish and Mexican food. So I've seen a little bit of everything.
So then, actually, I didn't actually know that entirely. I know most of that background, but not exactly where you started. So it sounds like your background is similar to mine, where you worked in every single position in a restaurant.
Yes. Suffered through them all. Yeah.
Suffered through them. That's a better way to put it. Suffered through them
Yeah.
all. Oh my God. I'm thinking back to when I used to have to be a prep cook and come in at 7 a.m. and on the docks of Boston. And that was just scary and gross all at the same time. But that's not what we're talking about, seafood. No, we're talking about wine today. I'd love to talk about steakhouses too, but that would be another program, because literally those are fascinating. They're my favorite.
They're wild. Yeah.
And yours, as in, is it not? Well, is there one location in Tulsa?
So, yeah. There are 3 in Oklahoma and 1 up in Omaha. So it's chain-ish.
It's chain-ish, but
it's
only
only the
locations.
4. Yeah.
Is it privately owned?
So yes, it's a company called House Smith Restaurants. So they have a couple of other concepts,
House Smith,
but
yep.
altogether about 100.
How long have you
Give or
been doing
take.
that?
So I'm coming up on my 8.5 year. So I've been with them for a while. Got hired as a server to start off. So yeah, it's a great company. They take really good care of you. And,
I love that.
my management team is all consists of people that started as servers or hosts. So they promote from within, which is really great.
Now you're
Yeah.
speaking my language. I love promoting from within. That's great. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to wine. So I don't know if this is the best place to start, but I just feel like I have to say this.
Mhm.
So I am not a master of anything wine at all. I just know what I like. And in all the years that I was working in also the Chart House, which is a steakhouse, and then, eventually owning my own restaurants. And of course we had a wine program. My business partner at the time, he was almost a master sommelier. He was working towards that. So he did most of it, but I would kind of sit there next to him. I learned enough, like varietals and things like that. But I don't know that much. But so now that, I've been out of the industry for almost 20 years, or, out of working inside of it. And whenever I go out to dinner with friends, which this last Friday, went out to a really nice restaurant, adult friends, obviously, they hand me the wine list. Now, these are people who go out probably more than I do. They don't have kids, so they go out more than I do. Case, choose the wine. Why? And here's the reason. This happens to me all the time. People are so intimidated by wine. And I'm like, dude, it's just grape juice in a bottle. What kind of juice do you like? To me, and it's probably not fair because I've just been around it for so long, but I always want to make it approachable because people love wine. They just don't like to order it because they're afraid they're going to make a mistake. And it's kind of an investment to make a mistake with. So what do you have to say about that, or anything?
Oh my, there's so many angles there.
Yeah.
I think first, there is a kind of high class, impenetrable appearance to wine, which I really like to dispel that. But it doesn't have to be that way. And sure, you have some old school, some snooty, all in a tux guys that will try to perpetuate that stereotype. But I feel like that's not the direction the industry is going, and that's not a direction we can sustain, especially with people drinking less in general.
Yeah.
As an industry, a lot of us that are in it are trying to make it a little more approachable. It's part of the reason I do my podcast. It's part of the reason that a lot of the like kind of somms that you see on Instagram, Facebook are doing like meta band recordings of them opening wine. They're trying to make it accessible and fun and interesting and interactive. There is always going to be an element of like, there's too much for one person to master. And so a lot of people will see that and think, this isn't for me, rather than, I think the more empowering idea and the more empowering kind of journey through wine is there's so much that no one person could master, which means I can find the thing I like, and it's open to me. It's anyone can find their way in. There's a value, there is a bottle, there is a type of wine for every person, every drinker, every price point. Now, doesn't mean that you won't have some misses. And you spoke to something that was very, very true and is in the mind of a lot of consumers. This is an expensive investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding people that you can put on your team that have a little bit of experience actually helps owners really mitigate a lot of those risks. And if we're going to flip that around to you going out with your friends, finding someone on the staff who has a little bit of knowledge really can help mitigate a lot of your risks. Now, not every restaurant has the person who knows the bottles on the list all the time, but you can help lower the price of admission in a lot of different ways. Like if they have a buy the glass program, can you ask for a taste of the bottle before investing for the whole bottle, say, just to make sure that you're not going all in on something that ends up you and your friends hate, So there are a lot of different ways that you can mitigate risk.
I love that. I love everything you said. That all that makes sense too. God, I have so many questions. And you and I didn't even really prep for this call in terms of what are you going to say? What am I going to say? Right. But you just said something that I think all the time, which is just, find what works for you. You don't have to know and be able to describe every single bottle of wine on the list. There's no way. I never even a million years wanted to be that person at all. For me, I like to distill things down and just, stay in my lane type thing. So, going back to my dinner on Friday night, I grabbed the list, I scanned down, I'm like, oh, they have Faust. And I happen to know that Faust, it's a California Cabernet, is one of my top 5 favorites. It's not offered everywhere, but it's fairly popular. It's, for me, a mid-range. It's not certainly one of the most expensive, and it's certainly not the cheapest. It's like right there. And to me, it tastes like a beginner wine. Like it's not offensive in any way. There's not huge tannins. It's not like, it's not super dry. It's mellow and it's fruity and it's just fun and it's got like this nice vanilla. So when I was describing it to the people who I was having dinner with, they're like, what do you, I said, oh, what about this Faust? Well, what's that like? And the way I described it, they're like, that sounds amazing. And then they all had it and then they're thinking, this is like, they're all taking pictures. It's a great wine. So now they know next time they go out to dinner and I'm not around, they're going to look for that bottle of wine because it's what they know. And I think what you just said actually makes a lot of sense. Is for somebody going out is just find what you like. Maybe it's a collection. Maybe you got a Rioja, a Cab, maybe a white that you like, and then just look for those.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to it than that, actually, right? Because it's where it's from as well, not just like, yeah.
I think that's a great example because we can actually take Faust and kind of play off that theme. So as a consumer, if you have found that you like one bottle, Faust, I have this bottle, perfect. Now, what can you find out about that bottle? No, you said that Faust is from Napa, California. That's a perfect entry point to, do I like just Cabernets called Faust from Napa Valley, or is it something about Napa Valley that does something to the grapes there that I enjoy? So like, can I find a Merlot from Napa Valley, try that and say, ooh, this is good too. Or even better, I don't like this as much. Because, it doesn't always have to be a positive thing. You start realizing, oh, the Cabs from Napa Valley, I enjoy those. The Merlots, nah. Cab Franc, okay. So you start getting in there.
Yeah.
But the good thing about wine is, and again, it's what scares people away, but as you dig into it, there's so much there. Faust is a perfect example. Faust happens to be one bottle in a family of bottles. There's a Huneeus family, and I probably mispronounced them, but anyways, they do all sorts of different bottlings there. So they have that, they have Quintessa. So you have like entry points, you
Another one
have
of my
higher,
favorites.
I know you have higher end. So it's like, do I actually enjoy this family's philosophy? And since they have all these different bottles, you have an entry point to all these different regions and styles. And so all of a sudden, from this one bottle that you realized you like, you can start branching out. Is it just that I like this winemaker? I believe it's Andy Erickson. Like, let's look at all the other things he does, because everyone in Napa does a bunch of different stuff. So all of a sudden, you find one thing you like. If you just dig in a little bit, a couple of Google searches, or, it's 2026 ChatGPT, what can you tell me about this bottle? You can get an entry point into all these different things that you as the consumers, you're going to enjoy.
Not to mention the apps that they have where you can just put, the wine. Is it wine? There's an app. It could just be wine. It's something else where you could just plug in something and it'll tell you everything. It'll tell you all the ones that are like linear to it. And those
past scores,
great.
future value, everything. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Everything we've said so far is more coming from the consumer angle, but I love that. I think it's a great way to come from, as consumers, especially as the listeners, as a owner, manager in a restaurant, the wine program. I love we just got to take away is just invest in at least one or two people on your staff other than management. And management should probably sit in with the wine pimps, or that's what we call them, the wine purveyors, and learn a little bit more about them. But even like anyone on your staff that expresses any type of interest in wine, have another person that is semi-schooled. They don't have to become a master, right? But they could be just enough interested in wine so that if another server who really knows nothing about wine has a table that has questions, at least they're like, oh, Melissa's over there. I'm going to go grab her and have her talk to you about wine. So I love that. Like, have at least one or two more people know something about wine and just be a little bit more involved in it. So coming from the operator perspective, if I own a restaurant, maybe, 50 to 100 seats, and it's doing great on the cocktails and beer is flowing through the taps and we have wine, but it just doesn't really move. What do you have to say to that person, that operator?
Oh, sure. So one of the first things that I would start thinking here, and this is a kind of rule of thumb that I've told my bar managers, kind of kept in mind when I was a bar manager, the wine reps are not your friends. Now, I said that very diplomatically and on purpose. I do want to emphasize that what I said was not that they are your enemies,
right?
But they are not your friends. They exist to sell the wine that's not selling. So the things that they are bringing to you are not always the things that are going to be the best options for your guests, the things that best serve your guest. There is a reason that if you go out to a lot of like small mom and pop shops, you look at their wines by the glass, specifically the whites, there's always going to be some weird, aromatic, highly floral wine from like 5 vintages back that I'm sure they've had on there for years that is not selling. And it's because it was offloaded on them. So first of all, there is a reason these discounts exist. So if I'm going to revamp a wine list, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to keep in mind, and I love this quote. It's attributed to Voltaire, but a lot of people have been attributed to it. Perfect's the enemy of the good. So you don't have to start off perfect. Just start somewhere. I also like to keep in mind, you cannot make money, you cannot make profit on the wine you throw away. So you have to get very clear on what you can reasonably do for a buy the glass program, because wine exists in a fragile state and it is always trying to become vinegar. So if you open that bottle, you only have a couple days. If you get an air pump, maybe you can extend it by a day or two. There are also these things called Corvins that they can extend the life, but here's the catch-22. Do you want your guest waiting for like 5 minutes for a glass of wine? Because it does take time. It pours very slowly. We've done them before for glasses of super premium things that we just can't let go bad. And then we've kind of stopped it just because there's no way to really explain it to a guest. Like, what do you mean I have to wait 6 minutes for my wine? It's like the bartender's frantically filling the bottle with this gas, with this contraption. Like it doesn't work for a busy restaurant.
And it only expands it for like 30 days at the most, the Corbin?
It does.
Right.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, Oxygen specifically is the enemy of wine. It turns wine into vinegar.
Yep.
That's what it's trying to do. Now, with these Corvin systems, it's something called argon gas. It's an inert gas, if you remember your high school chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets pumped in instead of oxygen. And so the wine doesn't degrade as quickly. It does degrade. It's very slow. Very great if you are studying for a sommelier certification and you have to do blind tasting and you don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on wines, because you can do a bunch of them back to back. But for day-to-day service restaurant, probably not.
Yeah. Good point.
I would start at more approachable price points for by the glass, and I would try to start with some of the big ones. These are the things that you would hear on daytime television: Cab, Chardonnay, Merlot. You know, the big names that pretty much every person, even a non-big wine drinker, Zinfandel, will hear, will know. Don't start in France. No one likes pronouncing French word. Like, no, I love French wine. I love selling French wine. I have tried to do French wine features in America, and they just do not sell because no one wants to feel silly. They have thrown in 15 extra vowels, and the word ends with an X, and no one knows how to say it. Skip it.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on your buy the bottle program. Make sure, if you really love French wines, or be prepared to train your staff 24/7, because even your staff doesn't want to pronounce it.
Yep.
Yes.
Well
and I'm like,
so
I have a French Sauvignon Blanc on by the glass, and I still hear people calling it Fumé Blanche, or like all these crazy things. I'm like, fair enough. You know, it's good and it's worth it because it's a great price. It's a great wine. But no one likes pronouncing French in America.
No, but I will say the Sancerre, which is Sauvignon Blanc, right? A French Sauvignon Blanc, that does seem to, at least in my area of the world, in New England, seems to be in the summertime more so, I think, popular.
No, sure. And I agree 100%. And I like Sancerre as a great example because it is probably the least French-looking French word you could imagine.
Yes,
there are no accents.
Yep.
It doesn't end with a consonant. There's nothing... Like, you're not unsure about how to pronounce it if you speak English as a first language. It's Sancerre. Okay. Yeah. So,
I can that.
Throw in a couple of accents and a couple of hyphens, and people just run for the hills.
I'm so glad you said that, too, because I wonder, I don't know if this is a fact or not. I just wonder if people feel like they have to have a heavy French wine represented on their wine list, when I would completely agree with you. It's not necessarily for the average American palate, and therefore it might not sell, but it can't hurt you to keep it by the bottle. The bottles are not going to go bad if they're taken care of. But by the glass, that's literally just loading up your kitchen with vinegar, right? Doing that. Side note though, how do you feel about rosé? And this is more of a personal question, but it's popular with the young kids, and the young kids, like the 20s and the 30s. I think it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
In my taste, isn't rosé supposed to be on the sweeter side? Like, what is rosé, and why is it so popular with young people?
So, yeah. All right. I will preface this by saying wine loves its contradictions. So anything I can say, you can find something that is like an example that it's not true. But in general, I think about rosé kind of like how I think about Sauvignon Blanc. So I personally hate Sauvignon Blanc. I do not like grapefruit. I do not enjoy it. I do recognize that it is a style and it has some typicity in different places of the world. And there are quality examples, but I just don't like Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm sure that my Sauvignon Blanc is your rosé. Mm-hmm. Now, rosé is an interesting one. There are only two ways to make a rosé. One, you take a red wine and a white wine, put a little bit of red into the white. Very rarely is this done, and it's kind of viewed as a cheaper form of it, except for the most expensive rosés of all, rosé champagne. Again, because wine loves its contradictions, which is why people kind of run for the hills when we talk about wine.
Yep.
Now, there is another way of making rosé where you just kind of let the red grape skins, so the outside of those red grapes, sit on the white wine for a little while. You know, you're measuring it in a couple of hours to a couple of days. Whereas like for red wine, it's for a long time. You really want to get that color. We're just getting a little bit. Think about a tea bag kind of soaking in hot water. If you leave it for just a few seconds, you'll get a little, versus a few minutes, you get a really deep tea. So because it is something that you control the amount that it's sitting in, you can make the lightest color rosé all the way to like the darkest. So there's a lot of variability. You can change the way it ferments to make super dry all the way to the sweetest, cloying, like disgusting thing you could imagine, and everything in between. And because there is this range and you get a little bit more freedom, you kind of don't know what you're getting a lot of times. So
that's it. That's why I don't like it, because I don't know what to ever expect from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, go to some of the nice, dry, southern, like French regions, and some of those really, really light, just barely colored rosés, super dry, super delicious, refreshing. You can get like super dark, almost cherry red rosés that like, are you sure that this isn't a Pinot Noir rosés that are full of sugar, in like the south of Italy, like, and everything in between. And there is actually one other reason, because there are two ways to make rosé, again, because wine has all this, it's always, the rabbit hole goes all the way down. You can either start off with the intention of making rosé, and like, I'm growing the grapes to make rosé, and that's what I'm going to make. You can also bleed off a little bit of the juice and make super concentrated red wines, sell them as your Faust Napa Cab. Okay. And some of that wine you bled off, sell it as rosé. And so when you make it as a byproduct, you are just making a little extra money on the side. So it doesn't matter if it's cheap. And the things that make really good, delicious rosé are low alcohol, high acid, crisp, refreshing. The things that make a good cab, and that would be carried off in the rosé if you bleed it off as a side product, good cab is going to be high alcohol, lower acid, usually a little bit more sugar when you start, that you're going to convert to the alcohol. So that like leftover product that you're getting, that they're bleeding off and selling on the side, it wasn't intended originally to be rosé. So you're getting the scraps from what they're selling, the excess, so that they can make a better bottle. Yeah. So
then the fact that it is so popular with the younger generation is probably because it was on a TikTok somewhere.
That it's cheap, affordable. And
I didn't actually realize that. Is it cheaper than your average other type of wine? I didn't know that.
Well, imagine you're making, and again, full disclosure, I don't know if Faust does this, but many Napa houses do. If you're selling off this byproduct to make a better product, it doesn't really matter. This is like extra. This is like,
so that overall keeps the price down, and that's maybe that probably makes sense, and that's why this young generation seems to really like it, even though it tastes terrible. In my opinion, of course.
And it's fun to drink outside or on a patio, and like
and it looks pretty in a glass. Yeah. Anything
that makes wine fun, I'm actually for. So
me too. I completely agree with that. Going back to the pricing thing in terms of an operator pricing their menu, but you had said something about the wine vendors, and I remember that, them being a king of the 5-case drop, the 10-case drop, right? Which is, hey, if you just take on 10 cases of this amazing wine before we sell out, because everybody wants it, I'll give you 2 cases for free. It is, I feel like I got hip to that a few years in, like, this wine isn't moving. If I can't sell it in 60 days, for us here in Massachusetts, that's how long it takes to pay. I don't want it. Right? That's kind of how I did it. I needed to constantly change over my inventory. I feel like when I'm consulting and working with the restaurant clients now, and if we do get into the weeds and we start talking about their wine program, and they say, oh, but I got this at a steal, but it's not selling, I'm still telling them, listen, say no to all those 5-10 case. No, if you're not selling through in 60 days, it's not worth it to you. It's actually going to tie up your cash flow. Do you agree with that, or what do you have to say about that?
I agree with that entirely. And I think it's important that we mention, because I'm sure your show has people that are listening throughout the U.S. There are 50 different countries essentially in the U.S. So some states do not allow like price incentives for cases. Oklahoma is a great example. Like, buy 2 cases, get 1 free. Not allowed, not legal. Some places it's the Wild West. Omaha, Nebraska, Wild West. One of the things that stands in my mind we have these case deals, and you're right. They can really bury you in product and product that you can't move. But if it's something you sell and it's something you sell quickly, like they can be godsends.
Sure.
We move a lot of prisoner, and they have something crazy where
Okay.
it's like 10 or 12 cases, you get it free too. And like, if I plan that over a course of 2 financial periods, we could do that. And there's like all the money from the 2 free cases is just straight profit. So like, if you can make it work, you can make it work.
Absolutely.
But they also have a deal where it's like a free case of Bacardi for 4 cases Tito's, and we sell the Tito's, but like we do not sell that many mojitos. Like we would have to feature mojitos for the rest of the time. So like that one doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah.
You know, like
so if they're giving makes sense, absolutely, you're right. So yeah, right. And so if your wine person comes to you and says, hey, this, this Hess, whatever, Hess Select has been on your list, and we're running a promotion on it, then of course it makes sense. But I think, and let me know if I'm wrong, to me, has always been the rule of thumb is whatever your terms are with that vendor. So some places might be 15 days, 30 days. Like I said, here we get 45 to 60 days. Make sure that you sell that within those term rates. That's how kind of my guide. It doesn't be exact, but as close to that. That's the guide. Do you agree with that?
I think that's great. And for the people that live in states where you have to pay on delivery, I'm sorry for you.
God.
Every state's different, but yeah.
The COD, that's like the Wild West. Okay, I was writing down. All right, so as we're in the last few minutes, tell us, is there like a checklist, or if you're developing a wine program or you want to rehab your own, you're starting new, what would you be doing? What advice do you have to give?
Sure. So first of all, start small, because again, you don't want the wines to go bad. Start classic. And remember, you don't have to start off perfectly. So a lot of states have a like buy a case, you get a special price. When you're starting off, don't commit so big. Start with just a couple bottles. Do it as a feature. Hand sell it. Are my guests responding to this? Because I'd rather get stuck with 3 bottles than 3 cases. Because you can make those bottles work on the buy the bottle list, but if you have this new by the glass and you really think that Côte de Rhône is what's going to happen with my restaurant, and it doesn't happen, thank God you didn't get all those cases. Thank God. Start with one source of knowledge. So I highly recommend, if you haven't ever seen it, Kelly White is a good wine writer. She worked for Guild Somm for years, and she wrote a book, Wine Confident. It is written for the consumer, but it has a lot of common sense advice. So like one book, someone who breaks it down but doesn't dumb it down, you have an entry point. If not that, find someone you can trust. Find a server who really likes making money and who's been studying. Find someone somewhere. As an aside, I had a girl who worked for me. She was Mormon, so she doesn't drink alcohol, and she's one I use as an example. So without the ability to taste, all she did was study a few bottles, and she was selling bottles every table. She just had a couple. She'd learned everything she could about them. And like, you don't have to go all the way to the end. You don't have to become a master somm. You just need a little bit of info to make you dangerous. And then last but not least, if you are putting together a program, make sure and watch the dollars and cents. Make sure you are actually making money, because wine has some of the most variable costing I've seen from suppliers, where if you aren't paying attention to what these bottles are costing you, especially vintage after vintage, what is profitable one year can slowly become less and less you're losing money if you're not paying attention. You have to watch what they're charging you.
Pay attention to your invoices, right? Absolutely. I'm singing that song all day long. So for quick reference, if I am a restaurant operator and I'm buying a bottle of wine for $10 or $120 a case, what do I put it on by the glass and what do I put it on by the bottle? Sure.
So there are some rules of thumb. There are ways to play around with this, but 4 times its cost by the glass, 3 times by the bottle. That will keep you safe.
Yep.
Like there's a reason that's a rule of thumb.
It's always been the way. That's how we did it in my restaurant 20 years ago. So yep.
We employ something called a sliding scale, where we make less money the more expensive the bottle is.
Of course.
Now, for us, we have things like Harlan, which, at like from the distributor cost us, I think it's $7.58 these days. So if I make that one sell and I get 1,100, if I've got $400 going to my bottom line, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
No one is buying that bottle for 3,000 unless you're in Las Vegas, and then
Right,
like good
exactly,
for you, like
yeah.
have fun.
Yep.
And that method of pricing only makes sense if you are regularly buying bottles that cost more than $100. Like if you're not, 3 times the bottle cost is going to keep you safe.
Yep.
And then if you are getting bottles that expensive, for the love of God, just test it out first. Make sure you can sell them.
Absolutely.
You don't need to invest all your money into wine. Just start small, see what works, go from there. Small iterations. That's all it needs.
That's great. I have two last things I wanted to ask you about. Well, one thing I wanted to comment on, I'd love to hear your response. You'd mentioned the term hand sell, and it's great because I use that term in all facets of my life. I use it even with my kids, and I use it with this little concession stand that I run at the soccer camp. Like I use it all the time. And I think for me, it came from bottle service. It came from wine bottle service. So hand sell, I think it's fantastic. And this reminds me of when I was out to dinner last weekend, and when I went to this place, first of all, they have wine glasses already set on the table. And that's not for everyone, but if you, the listener, have a place where you're able to, and it makes sense to have wine glasses set on the table, I feel like right there, it's already planting a seed in your head if you want to sell wine. So I do recommend that. Yes, of course, they're going to get knocked over. They're going to get broken. Now your wine glass costs got up. I get it. It might be worth it. It just, humor me. It might be worth it if your goal is to sell more wine or become a place that's known for selling wine, or whoever you just wine. Put the glasses, make them nice on the table. That's number one. But the hand sell literally is having your servers, even your bartenders, comfortable with bringing over a bottle of wine, displaying it, and this wine here, and talking about the label. And if it's a really cool label, that might actually just sell the wine for someone who doesn't know a thing about wine and they like to pretend that they do. So hand sell literally is the visuals, the wine glasses, maybe the little metal tray with the wine sits in, and then hold it. To me, like, it is a production selling wine that some people want as part of their dining experience, whether they know it or not. What do you think?
No, I like that. I think that is completely true. I think too, just building on that, if you happen to find yourself as a consumer in a restaurant that doesn't have that, you can almost manufacture that experience. Something I tell people that aren't sure about, their knowledge of wine and what they like, and maybe they keep getting defaulted to, like you and your friends. And it's like, oh, I have to pick the bottle. Ask your server, ask your bartender, what are you excited about? Because, for my list, I have Caymus on by the glass. I have Caymus by the bottle. I'm not excited about Caymus. It pays the bills. It's going to stay there forever. It's expensive. People love it. It's going to stay there forever. But if you ask me,
I feel like people know it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, what are you excited about? You get to see, I'm going to point you to South America and Don Melchor, and like no one goes to this bottle because they don't know how to pronounce it. But this is an OG. Like, yeah. So if you aren't in a situation where someone is hand selling to you, ask them what's exciting, and you can actually recreate that experience for you there, and actually find something maybe fun and exciting you wouldn't have gone for.
And that's great. So that's from the consumer standpoint. As a consumer sitting there in the chair, hey, what are you excited about on the wine list? From the other perspective, as a server or bartender, you could say, and you notice that they're perusing the wine list, maybe they just sat down. From that end, you could say, listen, if you'd like any suggestions, there's a couple of selections on this wine list that I am really excited about. And if you're interested, I'd love to tell you about it. And then walk away so you don't feel like you're overselling. But that's great to kind of put in their heads.
I think a lot of servers and bartenders don't want to feel cloying. They don't want to feel like they're over watching.
Yeah.
And there are some restaurants and concepts that it would be a bit too much, but you should have something you're excited about. And if you're not excited about something, why are you working at that spot? Go work at somewhere where it has something exciting, Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's so much excitement in this industry. My last question for you, Andrew, is what's the difference between having a big wine list and a small wine list?
It's the difference between, I thought of a couple of funny ways to answer this. I was going to say difference between like a mom and pop and Cheesecake Factory, but that's not quite it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, what are you trying to say about your restaurant? You know,
Yes.
not every restaurant is going to have 20 different pastas. Some have 0, you know, and that's okay. There is a spot. Are you the Italian spot that has 20 pastas? Are you the spot that, you know, maybe Italian heavy, but it doesn't have any pastas? And they're trying to, you know, show off we're a different thing. We're doing something else. I would find it really fascinating to see like a high-end restaurant that had a short list, you know, and maybe like a long list of classic cocktails. Everything you do in your restaurant is saying something to the guest. So I have a long list and I'm saying wine's important here. And, you know, I do the same things, wine on the glass. We don't have a lot of mixology. We don't have a lot of like molecular stuff. We don't do that sort of thing, which is fine. And I've worked at places that do that and it's cool and it's a different crowd. So every little thing that you do does signal something to the guest. Now, I often think about the cost too. So any lengthy list is always going to necessitate who's taking care of it, who's paying for it, and who's maintaining it. Because if you think it's difficult to keep track of 20 vintages on your short list, multiply it by 10, and all of a sudden you have a new position. Are you going to hire a full dedicated sommelier, or are you going to promote a server to do that on the side? Like, or are you going to do it? So
not to mention, where are you going to keep it? Because that's got to be temperature controlled. And then, as this is my side note, I was so pleased with the place that I went to and ordered the Faust that it came out. And I like my red wine at a slight chill. And I feel like red wine should be served that way, like a 58, 59 degree. Like I like it at that. It'll warm up as it's out. But for me, it needs to have a slight chill. When I go to a place and they serve me a glass of wine in a hot glass that came out of the, you know, the dishwasher, and the wine itself is already warm, like, you know, 65, 70 degrees. It changes the wine. It changes everything about it, right? So I feel like when you're talking about a large list, you also need to make sure you have the space, temperature controlled, the way the bottle is stored. Am I right? Or am I getting ahead of myself?
No, you are exactly right. And, you know, for storing the wine, variability is the thing that will actually destroy it fastest. But holding the wine bottle hot will eventually destroy it. So there's a time, if you want to sound fancy, it's called matterized. But if you ever get a glass of wine that smells like just like cooked raisins, like really sickly sweet, and you've had the bottle before, it's like, this isn't what I remember. So if you heat it for too long, the wines of Madeira, they're the only wines that really get made in this method. And so once you smell that and smell that wine that's been cooked or matterized, it's like, oh, this wine's been destroyed by the heat. And it's a problem in places like Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I used to work, in Las Vegas, like where the reps are bringing in wine through like 100, 120 degree days.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long at high heat.
I can imagine.
And then just from a point of enjoyment, if the wine's too hot, it's going to smell more like alcohol and less like the things you want. So that slight chill actually does serve a purpose. It kind of pulls back that alcohol smell and makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah. So don't be afraid if you're out there ordering wine, it comes in hot, send it back. Sometimes I'll even have them bring over, a champagne tub or an ice bin and put in red wine. And you should see the looks that I get from servers that clearly wine isn't their thing, I'm guessing. Cause I'm like, dude, this is hot. I put it, if I'm not going to like send it back as cork, I'm like, you got to chill it down for me for at least a good 20 minutes. Like this is just boiling wet. So, there's a tip for you if you're out there in the world and you get a hot red wine, just have them chill it down or order something different. But temperature to me is huge. So so a big wine list, a little wine list, kind of like you said, Andrew, I would much, much rather go to a restaurant with a small, first of all, I'd like a smaller list because it's less for me to have to decide upon, but thought through, thought out, cared for, just meticulously put together wine lists that make sense for the menu and for everything else going on, versus them handing me a binder or a giant book with 500 different bottles because they think that's impressive. For me, it's not even impressive at all.
Your test will be later, sort of thing. Yeah. So, homework before your meal.
Yeah, exactly. So, so you're saying absolutely no difference. If I have a restaurant that I'm charging a good, $50, $60 per entree. I'm up there, whatever. And I feel like because of that, I should have a lot of choices on my wine list. That's not necessarily true at all. As a matter of fact, it could be hurting you.
It could. And, it could be putting people off the exact people that you want coming to your restaurant. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have a couple of good options that are affordable than a book.
Book, exactly. And you'll make more money, most likely, off that. Less having to control, less waste, et cetera, et cetera. I know we are over time, but dude, I could talk about this all day long. I didn't realize how much I like talking about wine until this conversation. This was great. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. If people want to talk more about wine and what you do, how can they reach you?
Oh, sure. So you can come to my restaurant in Nebraska, Omaha, Mahogany Prime Steakhouse. I have a podcast called Serves You Right, where we talk about wine in the industry. Yes. There's a really good episode of Kasey Anton. You should check it out. And there's also the website, servesyouRightPod.com. So you can get in touch with me there.
Serves You Right. Where can you find the podcast? And it's not just about wine, right? Your Serves You Right is all things hospitality. If I'm right about that.
It is. Yeah, it is. There's definitely a wine slant just because that's what I know best. But you can find it anywhere you listen to the podcast. It's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the whole listing is at servesyouRightPod.com.
Yep. So go listen to his podcast. I listened to a handful of episodes before I went on it, and they were great. If you love this industry, if you love hospitality, you will love Andrew's podcast, Serves You Right. And as always, please share if you find that this episode or any of the episodes of No Reservations would be enjoyed by anyone that you know. And of course, share the No Reservations podcast. And thank you so much for hanging in there with us. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And thank you, Andrew.
It was a pleasure.
In progress and continue without you. Are you sure? Okay.
Cool.
I think we will be good. I just want to make sure to upload it right there and such a All right. You're the best. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you know about when this will come out?
This is going to be, it's either the end of January or early February, and I will let you know.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.